We're back out here once again, and today we're talking about why the toughest days for winter bass fishing aren't the days you think they are. But when that bite does get tough and those bass get finicky, what are some of the things that I do to keep those bites coming? Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Oh, that's a better one. Oh, that's another one. Come on. Come on now. There we go. Come on, buddy. All right. Golly, how many is that today? I don't even know. I've lost count. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and it's another gorgeous day here in South Mississippi. But looks can be deceiving. If you watched the last video I did, and you saw that I caught so many bass on topwater and a couple other things, you know that during that time, it was in the upper 70s and low 80s, which, for us, that's our normal December temperatures. Although this year, things have really changed. It's been cold all December. And right after I shot that video, the very next day, the temperatures plummeted. As a matter of fact, right now, it's in the upper 40s. And tonight, we'll be in the upper 20s. It's been that way for so long, I'm thinking that's going to be our new normal. But I don't mind that so much. See, if we have cold temperatures for a long stretch, even with sunny skies, I don't care, because that's stability. I can still go out to the lake, even when it's cold, and expect to catch some bass. Those bass will adjust. As I said, the worst day for bass fishing is not the day that you think it is. A cold, crisp day when you've got frost in the morning and you can see your breath, and all day you have to keep that jacket on just to protect yourself from the icy cold. Well, even on those days, you can catch a lot of really nice fish, especially if it's been 3 or 4 days of that type of weather. Those bass get used to it, they get acclimated to it, and they start to treat it like it's normal. The worst days are when that weather changes drastically. I had 80-degree temperatures one day, and then the very next day, it dropped down. And I'm telling you what, I went out to the water, and it was a tough day. It was a grind. It took everything that I had just to get the bites that I was able to get. So the question becomes, when the weather is like that, when we have those strange and strong fluctuations where we have a warm day, 1 or 2 days, and the bass seem to get active, and then just like that, the bottom drops out and you've got frost the next morning. What do? Well, believe it or not, you can still catch some fish. You've got to understand that it's probably not going to be a bonanza, although that's not out of the question if you can find the right place with the right school. I've done that. I've done it this year. But another thing you have to realize is those bass will still bite. You have to go to them on their terms. You have to understand, as we've said, where those bass are going to be placed. I used that warm day to my advantage because I understood that those bass were hugging the bottom right near the bank, right near the shoreline where we had those steeper drop-offs and it came down to a bowl. Those bass were hugging those areas. When the temperatures went up, well, those bass just came up in the water column and they were right in those places. So what happens when it gets cold again? Well, they're going to drop right back down and put their bellies in the mud right in the same places they were before it got warm. And they're going to be schooled up. They're going to be pretty tight, and you're going to find quite a few of them in one area. I'm consistently able to do that. Whenever I catch a fish in an area, I don't always catch just one fish. I'm catching 2 or 3 or 4 fish out of the same spots. And when you find those areas, you have to make sure that you work them thoroughly. You work them not just with one presentation. You work them with several different presentations until you just can't get any more bites. And when you do that, then you move on and you look for the next choice spot. You look for the next area that those bass have congregated in. And once you find those areas and you repeatedly find those areas, you can understand just how much easier it is to catch bass even when it's really, really cold outside. So I said that I was going to be doing a few things to make sure that I could keep those bites coming. And what are they? Well, first and foremost, I'm making things smaller. I'm going smaller with the baits that I'm using. And second thing is, I'm going slower. For the most part, there is an exception, and we'll get to that. But I do go to smaller swim baits like this Rapala Crush City Mayor, right? This is a little, I believe this is a 3 1/4 inch. It might even be a 3 inch. Things like this are perfect size. You can put them on a swim bait. You can put them on a swim jig trailer. I like to take that skirt off, as you guys know. And this is something those bass are going to be very, very attracted to. They don't have to be huge baits, because a lot of times those bass are just not in the mood to chase those bigger baits. You've got to have it small. You've got to have a nice little tasty nugget to put right in front of them where they can actually be attracted to it. And something like this fits the bill perfectly. And if you notice the color, this is a green pumpkin magic, because the waters in my lake, well, they are super crystal clear. There's no haze at all. You can see in 15 feet of water, I can look down and I can see what the crawfish are doing down there on that mucky bottom when the sun is overhead. It is just that clear. And that's how winter is for a lot of fisheries, that water clears up. So even if it's a darker day, even if you've got clouds, and even if you've got some wind going and some chop, a color like this can still be exceptionally effective. But there's something else I like to do if those bass get even more finicky and they don't necessarily want to chase a moving bait. They might want to chase something, well, a little bit more slow, a little bit more subtle. And I will go with a finesse soft plastic setup. See, this is a soft plastic jerkbait, and I've got it almost like I do the Waco rig, right? I've got that 1/0 light wire EWG hook, and I've got this. This is a full-sized cream soft jerkbait in that smoke shad color, and I've got it put on here. And normally I'll take a 1/16 ounce nail weight and I'll shove it in there, and I'll fish it on my spinning combo with a 10-pound braid or 7-foot medium rod. It works great. I was able to do that just the other day when that temperature had dropped down and those bass had gotten a little bit more finicky. I was able to use this technique to entice those bites, and well, it actually ended up catching me some really nice bass. So I was actually very happy to have this. So obviously you can pare this down even smaller, go with something like a Fluke Junior, but it's a very subtle presentation. A lot of times I'll use that big 3 or 4/0 or even 5/0 EWG hook, that heavy gauge, and use that as a weight. But right now I want to go even more finesse with that. So something like this can be absolutely perfect. Now, obviously you've got the stick bait, right? A wacky rig, a NACO rig. If they've got their bellies in the mud, a NACO rig is awesome for that. And again, a natural color. But something else that I'm really liking is, well, I actually shrink that worm down. I'm going with the 3 and 4 inch. In this case, this is a 4-inch Yum Dinger rather than your standard 5-inch. And shrinking that down is another way to increase those bites, another way to attract the attention of those fish. So I can use a Waco rig, I can use a NACO rig, and in some cases I might use a wacky rig, depending on if that water is only about 7 or 8 feet deep and I can let it fall. I actually am not going to get in any kind of hurry, because when it comes to winter bass fishing, whenever it comes to the water being cold, you can't be in any hurry. And a lot of times that means just being patient. Now, another thing that I'm doing is, well, obviously everybody's talking about using jerk baits, but I am using the smallest jerk baits that I can. Those are the ones that I'm really looking forward to using, because these are the ones that the bass get most excited about. These are the ones that those fish are really turned on toward. And this right here, this is just a little Rebel Minnow. And I used this the other day when those bass were active and they were all over this. But I can also use this on those days when those bass aren't so active, because that small size. Now, I said I was working things a little bit more slowly, and a lot of times I am, but this right here, I actually work fairly quickly. And the reason why I do that is because once this gets down to depth, I want to keep it there. And I'll even use something like this really small Rapala jerkbait. This thing is tiny, and I can get this down to level. And a lot of times I will add a split shot to the front hook to try to increase it to fall down a little bit more or to suspend in the water. And then I can work it more slowly. That's a little trick I can use with one of these. You have to play with it. You have to figure out what kind of split shot or what kind of suspend dot is going to work best for that. But once you can put those on there and you find out how to get it to stay in the water column just like you like, you can fish these really slowly. And that smaller size really does draw some really big bites. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind. You need to go smaller. You need to go slower. But not only that, you have to understand which days are actually the bad days. And the hardest days are going to be the days when that weather, when those conditions change really bad. Just like in the spring, right? When you get that cold front that blows through, that really bad storm front that blows through, you know that it's going to be tough for at least the next few days. The same thing is happening in the wintertime. It'll be warm and then that cold front blows through. It's going to be tough for the next couple of days. It doesn't matter if you have rain or shine. It doesn't matter if you have wind or not. Those bass just don't like the change. So when things even out and things get to be steady, then that bite is really going to pick right back up. So there you have it. The real days that are going to be the grind when you're out there on the water. And some of the best ways you can overcome that and still get some really nice bites. Because no matter how hard it is out there, you can always find a way to get some really nice bites. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.